The Prime Minister has announced a series of radical new measures to try to slow the spread of coronavirus. Gatherings have been further restricted to 2 people, while those aged over 70 have been urged to self-isolate. Everyone is being told to stay home except for essential shopping, medical services, exercise and school or work.
Don't gather together in groups. That's the simple way of putting it. Just don't do it. It's not helpful. It actually creates the risk. And when you're going out for shopping, you should be going for just stuff you need and do it and get home.
From today, all outdoor public playgrounds, gyms and skate parks will be closed, while boot camps are restricted to 2 people. Scott Morrison also announced work is underway to ban evictions from rental properties for the next 6 months. Another relief package will be announced by the Prime Minister within days to help hundreds of thousands of Australians losing their jobs. Political reporter Olivia Leeming is in Canberra. Olivia, the cost of this package will be enormous.
Yeah, bigger than anything we've seen. That's, according to the Prime Minister, worth more than the 2 packages already announced. Laid-off workers will receive up to $1,500 a fortnight under what the government's dubbing a JobKeeper allowance, a wage subsidy paid to employers, which is then given directly to their staff. A key element of this 3rd economic support package that is now being finalised will be put to the government's Expenditure Review Committee to be ticked off later today. After yesterday, the Prime Minister announced a $1.1 billion health package, including funding for telehealth consultations with your doctor over the phone or video apps, doubling as well the GP incentive for bulk billing, and a further $74 million for increased mental health services, with the government bracing for rising levels of anxiety and depression from this pandemic. As well, extra funding to support victims of domestic violence through counselling and other support services, while the restrictions on foreign investment in Australia have taken effect overnight after there were at least 2 cases of Chinese-owned companies in Australia buying in bulk precious medical supplies, shipping those back to China. So the Treasurer says these new restrictions are in the national interest and likely to last until this crisis passes.
Thanks, Olivia. New South Wales and Victoria are both expected to be sent into lockdown after the Prime Minister hinted at further restrictions. Both premiers have flagged the possibility of moving ahead of the federal government to slow the spread of COVID-19. New South Wales remains Australia's pandemic epicentre with 1,700 confirmed cases.
And states like New South Wales and Victoria will move further down onto those 2-person rules, is my understanding. You will see some states and territories, depending on the extremity of the situation in their states, moving to other measures before other states and territories. That is completely understandable.
8 people have been killed after a plane carrying medical supplies crashed in the Philippines. The jet burst into flames while taking off at Manila International Airport around 8:30 p.m. local time. All 8 on board the light aircraft, which was bound for Japan, died at the scene. It's reported the flight had been chartered by the government and was carrying medical supplies to help with the coronavirus crisis. Australians quarantined in a luxury Sydney hotel complain they have no fresh air or sunlight and cannot receive food deliveries. Strict new measures for returning travellers, who are the main source of the virus, came into force over the weekend. Arrivals are now escorted from the airport to self-isolate in a hotel room under lock and key for 14 days. Police are patrolling outside hotels, controlling those who come in and out. Some of those already isolated say they feel like criminals. Well, results from Queensland's election are expected to take days to finalise as technical issues plagued voting. Elections went ahead over the weekend despite the coronavirus pandemic. More than 1 million people opted for postal votes or pre-polling. Well, problems meant votes were not uploaded to the Electoral Commission website in real time. Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says it's unclear what went wrong, but promised it would be investigated. Well, another 209 people have died in the UK in the past 24 hours after testing positive for COVID-19. It's the 2nd largest day-on-day rise in the number of deaths since the outbreak began. Well, those who died were aged between 39 and 105, and all but 4 patients had underlying health conditions. It brings the UK's death toll to more than 1,200. Well, meanwhile, the death toll in Spain has surged to more than 6,500 as authorities grapple with the nation's overloaded healthcare system. Well, the government says 838 people died from the virus in the past 24 hours. The total number of infections across the country is now close to 79,000, the most in Europe after Italy. In Italy, more than 10,700 people have died from COVID-19 after another spike in the number of deaths. The country has said it will extend its lockdown past the April 3rd deadline. Well, the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus in the US has reached more than 124,000. More than 3,000 new cases have been recorded in the past 24 hours. Well, the death toll from COVID-19 has reached 2,188, more than double the figure 2 days ago. Infectious disease experts say the US could experience more than 100,000 deaths and millions of coronavirus infections. A specialised decontamination team is helping businesses, universities and schools stay coronavirus free. They're using cutting-edge tools and chemicals to help keep staff and students safe.
Office cleaning in the time of coronavirus. This building is safe. The team is demonstrating to 7 News what's required to prevent and get rid of COVID-19. Restorex workers have to make sure every centimetre of their skin is covered before they can make a start. It's dangerous work, but also essential as more companies become caught up in the crisis.
The inquiry levels at the moment have been overwhelming.
This team was called in after a staff member at a Victorian university returned a positive test. They use hospital-grade disinfectant and work with occupational hygienists on every project. Each stage is also inspected and verified by a third-party hygienist.
The chemicals, essentially what we're using, are cutting edge, and they're right at the forefront of, a COVID-19 response.
It can take up to 2 days for these technicians to do a thorough 3-stage deep hygiene clean as they respond to the COVID-19 crisis. So far, they've been to schools, universities and businesses.
Once we've been in and applied our 3-stage process, the business or the dwelling is able to be inhibited straight after.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Hospitals across the country are bracing for what's being described as a tsunami of coronavirus cases. Well, one of Sydney's busiest hospitals, St Vincent's, plans to move critically ill patients who don't have COVID-19 to a nearby private hospital to free up space. Well, the hospital also plans to dedicate its intensive care units to coronavirus patients. Well, nurses with previous ICU experience are now undergoing rapid retraining to make up for the staffing shortfalls. All private health funds have agreed to postpone the next round of premium increases for at least 6 months. The latest price hike was due to come into effect from April the 1st, but has been put on hold due to COVID-19. Health funds will also provide financial relief for those who've lost their jobs or contracted the virus. Well, students studying the HSC in New South Wales have been ensured they can apply for special consideration and have been encouraged to just do their best as they navigate the brave new world of education. Well, families across the state are facing real challenges as students of all ages and their parents adjust to online learning.
Home learning could slip into home lounging.
Time for school.
But not on Karen's watch. She's an experienced teacher and knows the key to keeping her kids on track.
Routine is very important, I believe, but there has to be balance as well.
Parents are being advised to keep within school hours, including recess and lunch breaks. Any curriculum questions, contact the school. Make time for kids to stretch their legs outdoors while maintaining social distancing rules.
The message to parents is we don't expect you to become teachers overnight.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a long week.
And with learning resources now all online, thousands of computers and Wi-Fi modems will be rolled out to disadvantaged students. Catholic schools are also slashing tuition fees for those facing hardship. For students in Year 12, there is real anxiety. All this coronavirus disruption could have a serious impact, not just on their HSC, but on their future path into tertiary studies.
They just need to do their best.
Special consideration will be given. And for our health workers who can't stay home, some teachers are offering to step in through a new online platform.
If we signed up to be a teacher, we signed up to give back and give a lot of our time.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Residents in a Melbourne apartment block have found a way to stay connected despite the new social distancing rules. They played music and enjoyed barbecues and drinks away from each other on their balconies. Subway and long-distance train services have reopened in Wuhan after 2 months of lockdown. Well, the Chinese city where the coronavirus pandemic began has had its risk evaluation reduced from high to medium. Well, passengers had their health codes or body temperatures checked before they were allowed to enter subway stations. While on the trains heading to Wuhan, passengers were asked to sit with empty seats on either side of them. Restrictions on residents leaving Wuhan won't be lifted until April 8. A prison riot has broken out at a jail in Thailand, sparked by rumours of a coronavirus outbreak in the facility. Well, large plumes of smoke could be seen rising from the prison after inmates set fire to the canteen. Well, dozens of prisoners broke furniture and smashed windows during the riot, and several escaped. Well, for our hero doctors and nurses on the front line of this fight, extra long days and nights have become the norm. Now, a new initiative is trying to make their job a little easier while supporting local businesses one coffee at a time.
They're working tirelessly, selflessly helping others. And one thing that helps them through the long days and even longer nights.
So guys, I just got our 3 a.m. coffees.
Thanks to the Buy Them a Coffee Instagram. Alongside a number of local cafes and coffee vans, they provide a warm cuppa to nurses and doctors day and night at hospitals across Sydney, Wollongong and Melbourne.
Depending on the size of the order, I can walk it down in under 5 minutes. If it's a large one, we'll take the car.
They're aiming to service the rest of the country in coming weeks. It's funded by donations via GoFundMe, the money given directly to cafes so our healthcare workers don't pay a cent.
And tonight they were free because someone has sent up a FundMe page so that people can donate to healthcare workers to help support us.
This initiative isn't just supporting the nurses and doctors working on the front line of the coronavirus crisis, but also small local cafes, many of which are now fighting to keep their doors open.
We've seen definitely a dip in sales. We've definitely appreciated the bump. I guess it helps us and it helps them.
A second social initiative, Keep Your Cafe, is also aiming to help these small businesses survive, encouraging people to spend if they can, to ensure they remain open in the long run.
Get a gift card for the future. That will help us to go on for now, to pay the wages, to pay the rent.
Amber Laidler, 7 News.
And around the world, we're seeing some very sweet tributes from frontline medical staff. A whole street waited outside and applauded UK paramedic Taylor Porter as she left for her night shift.
Oh, look. Oh, Taylor, look, right here. Oh, dear.
Her sister says it was just the boost she needed.